All right, guys, controversial conversation forthcoming. I know it's not what you guys are wanting to hear about, but it's something that I wanted to address because it's been making waves in the social media world. It's running rampant. People are taking it and running with it as if it's a real thing. Is A&M eyeing the Big 10? Yes, it comes from blue blood bias. It's a notorious rage baiting Twitter account that takes the smallest sliver of a rumor and cultivates a massive rage inducing post or narrative or talking point. It's a strategy. I can't condemn them for it, although it's very frustrating. But let's explore the rumor. Is there any steam behind this move? Is there any merit to A&M eyeing the Big 10? No, but we're going to talk about it anyway because you know what? It's the off season and it's interesting when you get into it. Cuz maybe if you look at the Big 10 and what it could offer A&M, maybe it's the better move. So let's explore that today. Let's get into it. If you guys like this kind of crazy content, like and subscribe. I promise you at the end of this video, we're also going to talk about actual A&M news and not just this bullshit that's been running rampant on the internet. So let's just jump into this thing. So what would the benefits of a move to the Big 10 be? Well, let me back up. Where did this start? I did my research, and the oldest inkling I can find of this rumor comes from message board conversations. Yes, if you go and you look at the timestamps, that's the earliest talk you'll see of this move. Big 10 eyeing A&M. A&M frustrated with the SEC, wants to move to the Big 10. Blue blood bias cites Greg Swaim of an Oklahoma talk show radio, or a talk radio show, whatever you call that kind of thing. He is an Oklahoma State guy. He claims to have a very locked-in source out of Chicago that is feeding him this information about A&M being unhappy in the SEC, unhappy that the SEC went over their heads and added Texas to the conference, and are now looking to move to the other viable conference of the Power 2 era. After the reformation of college football, A&M might jump ship and join the other conference. So beyond that, no steam. You have message board. You have Oklahoma talk show radio host. Oh, and mystery source in Chicago. That's it. There's nothing else besides that. So naturally, we're going to explore it. So what would the benefits of A&M moving to the Big 10 be? I think the main benefit of a potential move there, and at the end I'll tell you how I feel about things, but the main on-paper benefit, if you will, would be an easier path to the 12-team or 16-team or 14-team playoff. In the Big 10, let's face it, you're not going to see a consistently difficult schedule like A&M will have in 2024. In 2024, we're touting as a manageable schedule, but it already features like 4 top 10 teams in Kyle Field. You're going to see much more valleys in the level of play within your schedule in the Big 10. You're going to have some easier games. You're going to have easier games at home. You're going to have easier games on the road. Of course, the Big 10 does have its top dogs. It has about 6 teams that can go toe-to-toe with anybody in the country. But there is a major, major cliff, especially compared to the SEC, in level of play from the top dogs to the middle tier. It's just how it would be. So yes, the Big 10 is good. Solid teams at the top. But you'd have a lot of in-between games. You'd have a lot of lower-level games. So easier path. You maybe have a better chance to win 10 games in a year. It's just how it would be. Secondly, the Big 10 is a viable football conference. It's not like A&M would be relegated to the Big 12 or some conference that's doomed to disintegrate like the Pac-12 did last year. No. The Big 10's a legit conference. It's not. A&M would be moving to the other strong conference and make that conference even stronger. And maybe that conference would add a Notre Dame. Maybe that conference would add a Florida State. And you'd have a pretty solid conference there. It wouldn't be the SEC, but it's a viable option. The Big 10 is no joke. It's also no SEC. Finally, it's projected that Big 10 teams will receive a larger share of the revenue split next year and possibly the year after that. But on the long-term trajectory, the financial data analyst suggests that SEC schools will surpass the Big 10 schools in that revenue split over the next 5 to 10 years. And it makes total sense given the teams added to each conference. It makes total sense given the TV deals, SEC landing that ESPN deal and adding Oklahoma and Texas. It only makes sense that SEC will become the best financial conference in the country based on that revenue split in the near future. And that's what it's projected to be. So the post initially, the Blue Blood bias post actually has the Big Ten as the better financial option for A&M, but I think that's a short-sighted number. I think in the long term, the SEC is the better financial institution. So that's not even really a benefit. Are any of these really benefits? We'll circle back on some of these. I'm going through these benefits as a formality. We're going to go through them, and they're pretty much all going to be debunked in this next segment. The last benefit. A&M would get to stick it to the SEC, baby. The SEC went over A&M's head and added Texas to the conference without asking for permission. We want to stick it to them. We want to stab them again. Because make no mistake, this would be a power move. This would be a major chess move by the Big Ten in the power struggle that is college football and the future of the sport. The Big Ten would get tons and tons of TV eyes from Texas. A lot of TV sets in Texas that were maybe focusing on SEC games or Big 12 games, regional games previously, would then shift their attention to Big Ten TV outlets in the future. That would bring a ton of ad revenue, a ton of clicks, a ton of new eyes to the Big Ten. Thousands, if not millions. This is a massive, massive boon to the Big Ten if they're able to snag a Texas power. And they're already looking at Florida. If they can add Florida, Texas, Notre Dame, that's a major power move. But does that really benefit A&M? Does it really help A&M to move to the Big Ten, to take part in this power struggle that's going to be the rivalry between the Big Two, that is the Big Ten and the SEC? Keep in mind, Josh Pate, others, insiders, they really believe that these two conferences are going to expand and expand soon. But no one is suggesting that it's going to come from the other side, that it's going to be Big Ten to SEC or SEC to Big Ten. That's not really a thing. But they're both looking to get stronger. Maybe there's a sneaky move coming up. All right. We went through the benefits. Are they really benefits? Are they really enough to make A&M consider this move? Let's get into the cons. The cons of the move to the Big Ten. The reasons why this makes absolutely no freaking sense. Yes, it would be an easier path to the playoff because you're playing easier teams. But do you really want to get rid of some of these marquee matchups that A&M is getting at Kyle Field in the new look SEC? Look at the schedule next year. You have Notre Dame at home, out of conference, but it's on top of the already stacked conference lineup. That is LSU, top 10 team, potentially. Missouri, top 10 team, potentially. Texas, top 5 team, potentially. You have a stacked home slate at Kyle Field pretty much every year going forward in the SEC. You're going to sell out seats. You're going to charge a premium for tickets, which sucks for us, but it's great for the program. In the Big Ten, you have to deal with some of those bottom feeders. Those are teams that are going to be going to Kyle Field, and you might not be fetching as pretty of a penny in those games. You might not have an absolute sellout every single Saturday at Kyle Field. And you still have your out-of-conference cupcakes that are going to be in there too that will not fetch a pretty penny regardless. So you have those deep trenches, and then the valleys of the lower-level teams of the Big Ten. Of course, I'm kind of hating on the Big Ten by saying they have lower-level teams. The Illinois of the world, the Minnesotas, the Rutgers. Some of those teams can have good years, but for the most part, not on par with what the SEC has as their middle tier or even their lowest tier. The lowest tier of the SEC, it's just Vandy. Besides that, anybody else could be a contender on any given year. I know South Carolina and Mississippi State have struggled, but in my lifetime, they've been powers for extended stretches. So there's a major discrepancy in the amount of hype and the quantity of marquee matchups you would get in the Big Ten versus the SEC. And of course, the Big Ten has its top dogs, but with the conference expanding to close to 20 teams in this scenario, you wouldn't be seeing them all regularly at all. It'd be rare that you see multiple of them in a given year. Moving on, you would be moving to the weaker conference. And that kind of goes hand in hand with what I was saying before. The SEC had the foresight to add Texas and OU and get ahead of the realignment, reformation of college football. Yes, they went over our heads, but I don't hold it against the SEC. Maybe this is anti-Aggie of me. I don't think you hold the desires of one program over the good of the greater conference. I think it was a very powerful move that Sankey and the SEC powers made by adding Texas and OU, and it sets up the SEC as the example of stability in the sport. First of all, because of the financial success of the programs within the conference, the level of play of the programs within the conference. And thirdly, and this isn't exactly related, but it transitions me into my next point. You maintain regionality by adding these two teams. So my next point, you lose your regional matchups. Part of what's made college football so precious, as long as I've been a fan, is the regional rivalries, the border wars, the in-state wars, the Battle of the South, the Battle of the Southeastern Conference. The SEC has done a great job of maintaining regionality. The Big Ten has shown that it's not afraid to become a nationwide conference. Obviously, they stormed the West Coast. They absorbed what was left of the Pac-12, and they've made that their new conference. And to me, that's more of the professionalization, the NFLization of the sport. And I don't want to see that. I love the regional aspect of the SEC. I don't want to lose my matchups versus LSU. I'm excited to play Texas, and we'll talk about that in a second. A lot of people maybe don't want to play Texas, think we don't need Texas. Sure, maybe. But I'm excited to play their asses. I'm excited to continue to play some of these Southeastern schools. It's not something I want to get rid of. So I would like to keep regionality in my sport, and staying in the SEC means staying in a regional conference. So finally, I just alluded to it a second ago, why run from Texas? Why stick to the SEC? Does that stuff really matter to you? Does this stuff matter at all? I might be in the minority here, but I don't much care about the implications of Texas joining the SEC. Yes, you're adding another regional power. You're adding one of the giants of the sport to the conference. But it's not like A&M is the 2010s A&M that was maybe struggling and having major down years and questions about the stability of the program. I'll just be straight up. This is post-Johnny football A&M. This is financially soaring A&M. This is best facilities in the country, best job destination in the country, one of them. A&M has no problem going toe-to-toe with the giants of the sport. And A&M's recruiting, even while not winning, is a surefire indicator of this. So personally, I don't give a shit that Texas is here. I'm excited to play them again. I'm excited that rivalry is renewed. But I think A&M can go toe-to-toe with Texas in recruiting. I don't think it's a big deal at all. And I'm excited to play them. So Texas is as good as a fly on a turd to me. It doesn't matter. Let's beat them. Let's play them. Cool. Now, another thing that I personally don't care about, but I know a lot of Aggies do, it's the perception factor. If A&M did leave the SEC right after Texas joined it, the trash talk, the point and laugh syndrome, it would run absolutely rampant. It would be incredible. If you think A&M is a laughingstock now to the national landscape, just wait till then. Although we would be the heroes of the Big Ten, we would add so much financial gain to that conference. If you didn't know, A&M is a top 10 revenue-producing program in the country as far as TV revenue goes. I believe A&M was 7th the last time this was measured. Add that to the Big Ten, they're freaking happy. Add Texas, the state of Texas, to the Big Ten. They're taking a vacation, man. They're taking a damn vacation. We'd be heroes to them, but we'd be a laughingstock to the rest of the country. Do you care about that? I personally don't, but I know a lot of Aggies do, and I know a lot of Aggies don't want to stomach that. So why run? Why go? Why go right after Texas joins? Anyway, we're rambling. We're talking, it's much ado about nothing here, but we're covering it because it's been in the forefront. I want to get ahead of it. I want to talk about it. I want to get my takes out on it. Overall, I think this move is laughable. It's not real. It doesn't make sense. The benefits of being in the best conference are, I just highlighted them. They're bountiful financially. And as far as the fan perspective, it's just way more fun and enjoyable to be part of the SEC. I will say, if it were to happen, the Big Ten is not the worst thing in the world, but it's not going to happen. And in the 0.0001% chance that it does happen, I'll be right here to say I was wrong. But guys, rest easy. This is bullshit. This is not happening. This isn't real. It doesn't make any sense. If you didn't notice, all of my pros were counteracted by the cons. Easier schedule, yes, but less marquee matchups, less ticket dollars, less fan buy-in, less fan excitement. Buy-in's always going to be there. I'll back that up. But less excitement, less hype, less money. And we should expect A&M to be able to compete in the SEC. 10 wins should be absolutely attainable in the SEC for A&M. A&M has no problem acquiring top talent, no problem acquiring a top coaching staff, which leads me to my actual A&M news here, that Mike Elko is not done building a badass foundation for his program. We're a couple weeks away from spring practice. It's about to begin. I'm so excited. I can't wait to put out some videos about spring and leading into spring. Look out for those. Those are coming out soon. I already posted one last week. But just because we're approaching spring doesn't mean Elko's done building his staff. Mike Elko just went out and acquired Joe Hamilton out of Florida. He's their director of recruiting and scouting. And yeah, I know people are going to point and laugh. A&M getting another Florida guy. Florida's been in the dumps. Florida hasn't been able to win. Their outlook in 2024 looks very poor. But what they have done is continued to recruit well, just like A&M has continued to recruit well despite not winning. So you add maybe the main cog in that whole recruiting machine at Florida, the director of recruiting and scouting, to A&M's system, it's going to be an under-the-radar move. It's not going to get a lot of national attention. Same with the addition of Jordan Peterson and other guys on this staff like BGA, Coach Ish, Tony Gerard Eddy, maybe even Trooper Taylor and Sean Spencer kind of go under the radar, even though they're mainstays in the world of college football. These are all solid coaches, but maybe more specifically, really, really elite recruiters. The recruiting at A&M should not skip a beat with Mike Elko, and that's been indicative by his early gains in his first 3 months as the head coach. Look at this staff he's put together. We just listed some under-the-radar guys that aren't going to garner national attention. But you also did get the splashy guys. You went out and you got Tommy Moffitt, who apparently called A&M and put himself in the hat for the job himself. He wanted to come here. You get Colin Klein. You get Holman Wiggins. So this is a year 3 head coach in Elko building this, what I think is an A+ staff, and now adding this massive cherry on top of an already delicious sundae in Joe Hamilton, who is the cherry. This staff is really, really good. It's a testament to Elko and his ability to sell the vision. It's a testament to A&M as a destination. Of course, you're in the SEC. You're a Texas school. You're Texas A&M. You have the best facilities, the best fan buy-in in the country. At least you go toe-to-toe with anybody. Of course A&M can get these kind of guys. Of course A&M is fine even though Texas is in the conference. That shouldn't matter, just to loop things back together. Elko's done a hell of a job, and I cannot wait for spring. I cannot wait for the continuation of this recruiting and portal stuff. What a hell of a job he's done in 3 months, and it continues to get better and better. But it's not without its flaws, and my next video is actually going to be about some concerns I have about the program, because we can tout and hype up this coaching staff and what Elko's done early in the portal and how he's been able to hold this transition class together. It's all been great. I have some concerns, and we're actually going to explore that in one of my pre-spring videos. That'll probably be the next video you see from me. But I wanted to get this stuff out there. I wanted to give you guys my thoughts on this Big Ten bullshit. It's not happening, guys. It's not real. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't help A&M. It helps the Big Ten a lot, but it doesn't really help A&M. It's not going to happen. Rest easy. But be excited about what Elko's doing. And I'll leave you guys with this. We're stopping and smelling the roses here. We're excited about what Elko's doing, but nothing's going to matter until you put W's into that left column in your win-loss record in 2024. In 2025, the future of the program, it's going to come down to the wins and the losses. But the chances of winning are increasing with every move that Elko has made so far. He's exceeded expectations. We talked about that. He continues to do so. Let's see what this team can do in spring. So I'll see you guys next video with my concerns. I do have concerns. They're real. They're there. We'll talk about those. I'll see you in the live show on Thursday, 8 p.m. It'll be back this week. I couldn't get home in time to do the show last week. This week it'll be back. Excited to see you guys there. Like and subscribe if you haven't done that yet. It helps me greatly. I'll see you guys in the next one. Gig 'em.